Welcome everybody to the South Florida Poetry Journal launch reading. We have one of these each time we launch a new issue, and we invite people who've had their poems accepted to print in the issue to come to read their poem and read a couple of others if they so wish. So we're happy to have you here. We appreciate your hard work. We appreciate you trusting us with your great work, and congratulations on having it be chosen for the journal. I've already introduced, I think, to everybody, Lenny De La Rock, our founder for the South Florida Poetry Journal. This reading is usually led by Michael McInerney, who's our managing editor, but he had another meeting that couldn't be changed, so I took over. I'm a poetry editor also, like Stacy is, for the journal. So I've read all your poems, and I'm thrilled to meet you in person. So we're going to get going. We'll have each person read for 5 minutes. You can read anything you like, but we hope that you will read at least one of the poems, one poem from the South Florida Poetry Journal, or if you had more than one, you're welcome to do that. But the time is yours, so we're going to go down the list in the order that people registered for the reading on the Zoom site. That's more random than alphabetical. So we're going to start, and I'll give you a couple of people ahead each time, so you'll kind of be prepared when it comes up for your turn. So we're going to start today with Alex Carrigan, and Martha McCullough will follow, and then Eartha Davis. And I would ask that if you're not going to be reading, put your mic on mute so that you won't get any background noise, and then you can unmute when it's time to read. So Alex, you're going to start us off. Thank you so much, and we look forward to hearing your work.
All right, thank you. All right, so I'm going to read two pieces tonight. The first was my contribution to the most recent issue. It's a duplex poem based off a line from Eric Furer's Love Affair of the Apocalypse. It's called The Apocalypse Told Me. The apocalypse told me it loved me, but never returned. It promised me withered roses, but never gave me more than a poisoned seed. A poisoned seed could carry the promise of sickness, that we could both hold each other as our gums bled and our hair fell out on the floor. The floor was carpeted in black rain after the apocalypse suggested we toss our umbrellas aside and frolic in it. We didn't even care how it smelled. It smelled like a short but exciting future together, where we could live each day like it would be our last, most likely because it would. It would make all these promises to me, telling me I was a lucky guy to be chosen by the apocalypse to be there after the blast, while my family became shadows on the wall. The wall keeping me trapped in my mundane life had been knocked down, and I could finally be acknowledged and cherished for once in my life. My life wasn't special, though, as it apparently had other lovers amongst the ruins. The apocalypse told me it loved me, but never returned. And so for my second piece, I actually wrote that in a series of duplex poems where I based them off lines from other poets. And seeing as how you're the South Florida Poetry Journal and you absolutely love Maureen Seaton, may she rest in peace, I'd like to read the one I wrote based off her poem, Planes Fly in Formation Over My Backyard, as in war movies. This is No Images for Infinity, published in Broadkill Review. Normally, I would say there are no images for infinity, but today I am not so sure. There seem to be more doors down this hall than there were yesterday. Yesterday, I was assured that I would eventually see the end of my life, but hanging between the doors is the same watercolor landscape. The same watercolor landscape of a pond with white lotus flowers on the surface. The brushstrokes seem mass-produced here, when the artist's touch should be singular. Should be singular, but this hall only continues on and on, turning my home into a hotel, when all I wanted was for my space to be controlled. It should be controlled so I could know that when the time comes, I'll be able to walk down that hall one last time and imagine that I'll be able to see the real pond. I'll see that real pond once I close my eyes for good, ready to grab a lotus with my hands and admire it for all eternity. But the hall keeps stretches further, and I don't know when I'll find my true resting place here. Normally, I would say there are no images for infinity, but today, I'm not so sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Alex. That was wonderful. Our next reader is Martha McCullough, and I don't see her in the room yet, so we'll go right ahead to our next reader, who is Eartha Davis. Would you like to read for us?
Yes, hi, thank you. I'm going to start by reading the one that I got in the South Florida Poetry Journal. So it's called Kiva, which means memory. And then I'm going to read one that was published in Wildness a few months ago called Kravgul, which means the tree of love. Kiva. There is remembrance and then there is softening. Bodies knitting themselves to apricots, tufts of sky hair, and breath that foams inside birch bark, warmed by the single compass point of a human chest. In 1,000 years, current shall ache as she does now, and you, heart one, shall remain tucked under earth breast, wrapping an umbilical bark around both of us. So that's the first one. And the second one, Kravgul, so the, thank you, the tree of love. It says, I dream of a tree that breathes into hands, carves an earthen opera from thumb kisses. I dream of a tree that trains the sparrow, nurses feathered eternities, demands no action but river spray. Perhaps tree is mother, daughter, lover, a soil-bound sun warmed by the livingness of a human palm, plum and flowering plum, the heart stain on its feathered cheek, and then, morning comes like a small bird with body secrets dangling from its beak.
Thank you very much, Eartha. I appreciate that. We are going, our next person in line, because two aren't here yet, we're going to go ahead with our number 7th person, which is Dani Janae, and we're thrilled to have you here, and the stage is yours. You'll need to there.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to read 3 little sonnets. They were not published in the SoFloPoJo journal, but the poems that I had published in those were a little bit long, so I decided to go for shorter ones. And just a content warning, these poems deal with substance abuse, so I just want to say that at the top. Sutter Home Sonnet. There is confession in the bright breath of your Moscato, the ceremony of popping the cork, licking its woody stump. I lap my tongue around the glass rim as if I am playing a song. I am not what you'd call a musician, nor am I thirsty. I am, however, trembling. Your pink against mine writes a frightful sunset. A good wine must be both healer and an assassin, to claim a red heart with its shimmer, the shine far from free. I am not angry with myself. The fight between my hell and my life was too ghoulish. Somehow the bottom shelf holds the most sincere ghost. Stella Rosa Sonnet. Sweet as summer in the backyard. Summer thin as a waistline. Dill in the garden, silky cilantro. Time. Guests ashing their cigarettes against the earthenware pots. Sparkling like sunlight, or better yet, sun-dappled. Yes, like a cooing baby. Sun shining through fingers laid over the brow to shield the smile. Gnats swimming in a glass. My last $10. My last $10. Stella Rosa, sugar-laden, dark and cloying as night wrapped around the waistline. The hip sunk inward, the chalice, the bone sharp as a knife. Potatoes sprouting green eyes shifting in the black pantry. Okay, last one, Diet Coke Sonnet. It can take time to do anything good. I'm cutting down sugar, watching my carbs, trying not to remember the cool press of the scale beneath my feet. My best friend says she likes Diet Coke, so I drink it too. Lots of ice in a plastic cup. Fizz anoints my tongue like a bath bomb. The faint taste of caramel colors everything. When I was young, it was always more, more, more. I couldn't get enough of ruin. My teeth could have rotted right out of my damn head. It was an ugly scene. Sober, I make amends first to my mouth, then to the rest of me. Parts gone soft, overripe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dani. Beautiful. Okay, our next 3 are going to be Heikki, then Christy, And then Juan, we had a longer list, and so we may be able to come back around and do a second round. So if you're interested in doing another poem, just be ready for that, because I'll come back around if we continue to have just who's here in the room. Okay. We can't have enough poetry. So Heikki, I would like to turn it over to you. Heikki Houtari.
Thank you, Judy. I'm honored to be part of this celebration. Someone told me once that life is uncertain, so I should eat dessert first. And I didn't know that you wanted poems from the journal to be read, so I chose my most recent 2 poems to read. I maybe could find other things, but I wouldn't be able to see them. I've got things set up this way.
That's okay.
These poems are about school, church, and vision. The first one is called On Coloring Inside the Lines. Worthy are the tulips that were tiptoed through, and on the 3rd day rose. A rose named DJ Trump would smell as sweet. The more the monuments, the merrier the monuments. If elevator music be the diet food of either unity or sanity, divide by violet or don't divide by violet, momentum has the right of way, i.e., the first and second moments of inertia are inviolate, i.e., the time of life is nigh. Neither stability nor entropy will grant to consonants the dissonance's wish, i.e., to be as happy to be happy as they're happy to be frivolously jostled, and to astronauts who isolate, the past catastrophe is nowhere near a guarantee, i.e., the opposite of an adjustable parameter, a panacea, lilies of the field entangled. When one quantum dot B spins, the other toils. As Simon said to Waldo, do as Simon says, but not as Simon does. The other, written this morning, is called I Believe My Eyes. Pursuant to the braggadocio of lightning and mocking applause of thunder, I'll be adjectivally unmodified or not unmodified at all. Truncations juxtapose the naked nerve ends, predator and prey. Then I believe my eyes, and I believe that my belief harms no one. Should your teaching style be in compliance with my learning style? Who whistles past the rapture? There's but minimal disorder at the macroscopic level. Will you magnify the compliment? Or would you rather send electrical impulses to my pleasure center? Take one bite of, then put back into the heart-shaped box whatever's less than perfect. Put your own gorilla costume on before assisting others. Show me a non sequitur, and I'll show you a sequitur that was blind but now sees. Thank you.
Thank you, Heikki. That was great. Our next reader is Christy Prahl, and then Juan Pablo Mobili. So Christy.
Hi, everybody. It's so good to see you. I'm nursing my very first case of COVID, so bear with me. I'm really glad we're in a remote setting right now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read the poem that was published in South Florida Poetry Journal. Just immense gratitude to the poetry editors of the journal for including me. It's really nice to be in this good company, so thank you. This first piece is about one of my very favorite people in the world. I got to ring in the new year with her in 2023, and I wrote this poem about her the next day. It's called Isabel, Who Loves Weather. The girl, 11, born smaller than a shoe, stands taller now than August corn. She lifts me clear off the ground at hello. You're so light, say her arms. You're so strong, cracks my spine. Isabel keeps howler monkeys in her lungs, and at the forecast of a coming blizzard, releases something primal that pierces the ears of the men in the room, but makes women think, next time, louder. At 15, she'll develop words for these feelings in some sad bargain with evolution. Her brain tumbles with ideas, she says, that wake her in the night. What do you do to get back to sleep? She overthinks them until they behave, or gets up to draw them, she tells me. Isabel tolerates people, but often prefers the company of dogs who demand nothing but to breathe beside her. One day she will engineer a better bicycle. She will discover a new species of lichen on a walk in the woods. She will shatter a drinking glass with her voice, and then she will draw it. I'm going to read two more short pieces. This is from my my first collection, We Are Reckless, that came out this September. So just a couple shorties. This is called Mind the Burners. This is the interval when my husband, in a separate room, cooks dinner. A potato, a leek, baked into a crust, worthy of winter knives and forks. He recites the recipe to himself and listens to music softly as the notes permeate the plaster. This is the carbon dating of love after a fight with slammed doors. No penitence or stitching back together, simply a softening into quiet once the storm has passed and spared the roof. Voices that braid into an ear, a potato, a leek, becoming a pie. And then the next piece, thank you. The next piece is, let me find that. I'm an insomniac, so I'm often up at the crack of dawn every day. And sometimes it's actually my favorite time to be awake. So this is a poem sort of that's a tribute to that time of day. It's called The Pinking Hour. This is my song to the quiet morning, to waking in the dark when most are still sleeping, save the revelers heading home from yellow beer and a clip of conversation they hoped might lead to sex. We form a sisterhood, we salted thieves of time, the early shifters tucking into uniform, the farmers in the center of a flattened map, positioning their combines ahead of the sun. Hold still its punctuation. Soft paintbrush of a single car driving by. Dog barking for the notice of someone who might feed him. The movement of planets hung precariously in the sky. We'll steal another deep breath before turning on the light, before inviting the din of anchormen, of backpacks slung to noisy children. We'll welcome the world's laryngitis before the treasonous clatter of day. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Wonderful. Our next reader is Juan Pablo Mobili, and he did put in the chat that he may not turn on his camera. So if you want your camera on, you can. If you don't have to have it on.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it on. You're fighting COVID. I'm fighting what my doctor called a semi-bronchitis. So I should make it through my reading at the very least, okay? So I'll read only from the latest issue of South Florida Poetry Journal. I'll do two. If I'm doing well with time, I might read a third one, okay?
Okay.
After midnight in our kitchen. After midnight in our kitchen was a busy scene. My father up and dunking what was left of a stale baguette in a glass of cold milk. I was coming home from discussing the responsibilities of poetry in a troubled country like ours. And my mother would join us half asleep, lighting up a cigarette, worried about my brother's whereabouts. While other families slept, mine talked loudly about our wishes, coins we cast down a deep well, hoping we heard a distant splash. Thank you. My personal teleology, and the epigraph is a definition. My personal teleology, a definition, the explanation of phenomena in terms of the purpose they serve, rather than of the cause by which they arise. My mother loved to tell me that story, her voice orphaned, when she'd come to the part about her father. And my thoughts would grow tendrils, hoping to climb the trellis of her sadness. Losses I did not understand. Poems exiled to my old notebooks that still whisper like St. Francis greeting his beloved shy sparrows in his humble little chapel in Assisi, their wings fluttering like prayers that God had not heard so far. And I'll give a chance to the last one. This is about my granddaughter. She would be mad if I exclude her. A vision of my granddaughter. What if the light at the end of the tunnel is my granddaughter, in a dress made of sweet shadows, holding the candle she lit up at my funeral? Now, a woman who understands my prophecies, so silly when she was a little girl entering first grade, a tunnel of her own. If anyone could compel me to emulate Jesus rising from his tomb in war-torn Jerusalem, it could be her. Her beauty and amber since the beginning, when she learned to walk the impossible tightrope between her lovely unicorns and her newly minted parents. What if she reaches the tunnel's end and I'm standing so young now that I could even be her son, and now she's a woman and greets me, smiling, surprise, and holds me in her arms while I whisper, I told you I was not going anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Juan. Wonderful. Thank you. Our next reader is Richard Jordan. And then if we want to, we can go back and have another poem from each person. So you can choose to read another poem, or if you're not prepared, you certainly aren't obligated to. But after Richard, I would then ask Alex for another poem, and also Eartha. And then we'll go down the list from there. Thank you. Richard, it's all yours.
All right, great. So I'll read three. The first one is from the latest issue of South Florida Poetry Journal. The second one was actually in issue 30 of South Florida Poetry Journal, and I had intended to make the reading, but I couldn't, so I'll read that. And then I'll read another one that is actually quite new, but what the heck, we'll see. So the first one is called Not So Bad, and it's a blank verse sonnet. So even though it's winter and the trout won't rise again for months, and even though I'm thinking of my mother who's been gone some 30 years, I'm feeling not so bad. Which is to say, the river is still flowing under that thick black ice, and I can sense it. Sure, there may be certain times I'm gloomy as a cold front sky, though not right now. Not when in these woods, despite the snow, birds are busy chirping through it all. And I know who they are,
those chickadees, so small, so ordinary. Still, they always made my mother smile, sometimes sing. She'd say to me, let's greet them. Well, hello. So that's the first one. And like I said, the second one was published in issue 30 of South Florida Poetry Journal. And there's some tongue twisting stuff in here, so I hope I get through it, but we'll see. It's called Off the Map. Deep in the woods beyond Buttermer's farm, the spring was so narrow I could clear it with a hop. But the current was swift, the water cool. I found it one opening day, while older fishermen lined the banks of large streams and rivers like gargoyles, thrashing up froth with their frantic casting. Expecting nothing, simply passing time, I lowered a mealworm on a hook into a quiet hole and pulled up a brookie, barely long enough to span my palm. Too small to have been stalked, a native with reds and oranges brighter than peak foliage. I released it and it flashed away downstream, fading as in a dream. And I'd returned to that place through my childhood, never telling anyone what I knew was there. I wouldn't even bring a fishing pole. I'd stand and listen to the bubble and flow, maybe sometimes dip a toe in the translucent water, but only for a moment. And the last one is it's the one I said is pretty new. Probably go through some edits, but it's a prose poem, and I felt I needed something that proves I could write about things that didn't involve fish. So here it is. So it's called For a While After a Funeral. For a while after a funeral, every little thing becomes a sign. A breeze out of nowhere that lifts cobwebs and rustles the drapes. A lone beep of the smoke detector in the middle of the night. Even the pregnant silence that follows. These are meaningful messages from beyond, evidence that life isn't lost to darkness, but continues, say with mysteriously clinking utensils in the sink. We wish to believe the departed speak through such oddities. That mellow 70s song we've been thinking of for hours, the one we're amazed we're still able to sing by heart. Listen, it just came on the oldie station. Someday again we'll allow for coincidence. Not yet though. For now it must be love.
Thank you, Richard. We appreciate your sharing those with us. All right, so we're going to now have Ann Weil read for us. And then after that, I'll begin to ask for second poems if you wish to, or additional poems from Alex and Eartha. And after that, Dani again. So Ann, the stage is yours.
Thank you. I'm Ann Weil. Sorry, it's a hard to pronounce name, but yeah, everybody always says Weil. It's Weil. The first poem, I'll read two poems. The first one is what was published in South Florida Poetry Journal. So this is called Alice's Cure for Everything. The book wears a red jacket, pocketless. Who needs pockets when you have pages? Rain has made a purple morning, clatters on the tin roof. I, never an indifferent animal, prepare reverently for the journey. Glasses cresting the hill of my nose, lumbar pillow placed between vertebrae L1 and L5, steaming tea mugged, its plumed breath wafting my way. I am Alice in the wonder of bookland, poised at the rabbit's hole. Departure gate 1, let me read, let me read. Words open wide their fleshy arms. I settle into an imagined lap. By page 10, I have left this world behind. By 20, my sorrows scatter like spilled salt. By page 300, I'm not thinking of you at all. Thank you. Oh, there's my dog. That's Aiko. Okay. This one was just published on Monday in Swim Every Day. It's called Hillary Clinton and Banksy Meet Me for Lunch at Vivi's House of Vegan, New York City. At least I think it's Banksy. He's graffitiing our corner booth with little girls reaching for red heart balloons. Our server gives him the stink eye, but Hillary's stomach growls, distracting us all. Hill orders a tempeh Reuben and a side of sweet potato fries. Banksy's not hungry, but when the food comes, he turns puppy dog eyes on Hillary, and she shares her spuds. I offer him a pull on my matcha mango smoothie, but the straw is soggy. Such is life. Banksy is surprised that Hill has taken up Bill's vegan lifestyle. Apparently, she heard the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. And in this case, she reports it actually is. Hillary asks Banksy what it's like to be wildly famous without being known. Banksy whispers in her ear, mentioning her time as First Lady. I order a slice of carrot cake topped with cashew cream, 3 forks. Hillary wipes walnut dust from Banksy's chin. On the way out, Banksy paints a big blue Hillary 2028 on the restaurant's door. I wish. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. That's great. Okay, we're going to go back and see if anybody has an additional poem. So, Alex, would you like to share another one with us?
I would, sure. All right. So this poem was recently published in Fifth Wheel Press's Secrets in the Garden anthology and is also a duplex based on a line from Emily Perkovich's May Crowning. This poem is called Never Wanted an Open Plot. I never wanted an open plot until one was thrust upon me. All the leaves were swept and the stumps were uprooted before I realized. I realized the space called for me when I noticed that I could no longer hear the robins in the nest situated in the grand oak tree. The grand oak tree was cut down, sliced, and reconfigured to make rows of chairs, a stand for a wreath, and a platform for the pastor. The pastor sprouted from a dandelion seed that was carried here by the strained exhale of a weeping mother. My weeping mother watered the earth until it opened itself up, but no pond formed at her feet, only a deep maw created before her. Before her were all my past lovers, my children, the friends who always joked that I would die before all of them. I died before all of them, and the view from my window makes me realize I never wanted an open plot until one was thrust upon me. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Great poem. Then we'll have Eartha and Dani and Heikki after that, if you have poems that you'd like to share. So, Eartha?
I have one that I wrote last week, so it's very fresh and very unedited. So it's called Disgust, which is Gaelic for waking or coming into life again. It says, let us return to the poetics of touching. Seek the land where prayers kiss, nurse each broken river. Watch the ocean, watch the human. Braid the tale of winter with more world than wound. And let our bodies warm earth's dreaming. Gather each wilted overgrowth. A glimpse of hands reaching. A glimpse of waking, waking, waking. Eyelids demanding fruit, skin feathering. Gentleness, Earth says, is a revolution. Revolution, Earth says, is a body singing. Let Earth embrace body. Let body embrace Earth. Let body, let body. Ask both to believe in being. Ask both to applause the forest, soften our names. Held body will live forever. Held earth will live forever. Thank you. Please the dogs outside, making some little noises.
Thank you so much, Eartha. We appreciate that. Our next reader is Dani.
Okay, I'm going to read one of the ones that was published in SoFloPoJo Journal. So this is Prayer for Detective Clistic. After Aretha Franklin. Forever and ever, his breath climbs my thigh forever and ever, believe me. Like nothing you've ever felt. His breath, my soul stalled from my body, believe me, believe me. What does a man like you know about terror? 6'5", hulking in the doorframe like a thing from a nightmare. You ask me again and again the story, so it is the same each time. Believe me, believe me. I don't slip up. I say it again and again. I let you know where he put his tongue. Forever and ever, I say it, the little prayer. Believe me, my darling. It was only heartbreak for me. It was only you standing at the door again, asking for evidence. Believe me. There is no one but you. If this is a prayer, then you are a God. And if you are a God, you must answer me. Believe me, believe me, believe me. Believe me, believe me, believe me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dani. Appreciate that. Okay, Heikki, would you like to read another poem?
Yes, I would.
Great, thank you.
I couldn't find how to unmute. I would like to read a poem from my collection, Scaffold and Mirage, that's in press. It's called If You Laugh, You Lose. In one of three beginnings, the ellipsoids optimally filling space are shaped like M&Ms. The music of the ellipsoids is audible to all, i.e., that they are optimal is obvious. There's one to tell the joke, another to explain the joke, another to explain the explanation. In the land of those who can't have cake and eat it too, those souls who have and eat it too are kings and queens. It's either comedy, if one or more are not amused, or tragedy, if raptures happen. Can't see smalls of backs or backs of knees. Can't see the absentees. Consideration of the lilies without feedback in one's heart is stalking. Lilies lacking gyroscopes go off half-balanced. Truly, if that really is your name, I hope you're happy now. The animals have animals. The hats have cattle who can't compensate. They also spin whose axis is remote, whose day is 20,000 human years, whose compound pendulum is not chaotic. I identify with you to the extent that you're arboreal and not imaginary. You're my favorite public enemy. Don't tell the other public enemies I said so. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Next we have Christy, and we'll go back to Juan. Pablo, if you would like to read an additional one. Christy?
Sure. This is called The Last Three Rows. Excuse me, sorry. The Last Three Rows. We once smoked on airplanes. My nearly grown children don't believe me when I tell them. That could set the fuselage on fire, they say. They have no imagination for what once happened on planes. There, above the origins of weather, we watched thunderheads form over tall cities and hard-scrabble company towns, knowing that far below, at the arc of the earth, were thousands of gallons of expired milk, thousands of babies shrill in teething. Breath by coiled breath, we measured the minutes ahead of us and the world underneath, its lattice of grain, its tiny hamlets kindled in dust. Our trays lay flat in supplication for cubed meat over rice and a wrapped ginger biscuit. We smoked to mask the smell of other people's skin after so many dormant hours. To evade the stories of Iowa basketball tournaments from men ungainly and hurriedly shaved. To invite conversation with that rare dolt who might whisk us into a cramped bathroom for a quick knock against the edge of the sink. These were things that never happened in the vapor of everyday life. In everyday life, the sun rose and set as we queued for the vacant dial on the lavatory door. Flight attendants consigned to coach gossiped together and broke open tiny cans of 7-Up with a hiss of carbonation that nearly made them sneeze. We felt one with them now, though we were singular in nothing. Scores of identical flickers of light on air traffic screens hurtling toward Seattle, Cincinnati, Dubai. We nearly made ourselves dizzy on swallows of nicotine and felt large together in a small place. We clutched our white packs wrapped in cellophane firmly in our right hands, reassured of their power as we drifted off, faces wedged against the cold plastic wall. Worried momentarily about geese in the engine, or worse, that we might be falling out of love with our children, imagining what else we might have become. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Wonderful. Okay, Juan Pablo, would you like to share another poem?
Yes, actually, I was inspired by Christy, so this poem has an airplane in it too. It's called Dreaming of an Airplane Filled with Birds. None of them consider flying, although we're fated to crash. I wonder if I should consult the other passengers, the therapist, or the ornithologist, or my mother, who's watching the irony of it all while she takes a slow drag of her long cigarette. The ornithologist asks why my mother, the ornithologist asks my mother for a smoke, while the therapist takes notes about how she raises her eyebrows. And the birds miss the fact that the door is wide open, blinded by fear, like someone reading a letter on fire. But my mother, whose whole life has longed to fly, slowly puts her Benson and Hedges out, looks at every frightened bird, including me, raising her eyebrows, and says without an iota of drama, "Wake up, save yourself." Thank you.
Thank you, Juan. Wonderful. And I'm going to offer two more people, Richard Jordan and Anne Weil, to read another poem. But before I do that, I just want to say thank yous before we start to disperse. I want to thank all of you who've come here as readers, and I want to thank our South Florida Poetry Journal team who've joined in support. Stacy, David Kolodny, Lenny De La Rocca, great to have you here. And Dustin Brookshire is here off camera, but he is the publisher of the Limp Wrist Journal, and he also has a reading series called Wild and Precious Life, one Wednesday a month. And if you go to Wild and Precious Life, just Google that, you'll find the schedule for that reading, and it's always a great reading to attend. So we'll finish off with our last two. That would be Richard Jordan and then Anne after that. Richard?
Thank you. So I think I'll read, this is a short one. It's another prose poem, and it's called Jesus on the River. Sometimes he thinks he should enter the church, but the river holds him with kingfishers that rattle back and forth across a quiet pool. Slate blue wingtips almost dipping in, more graceful than clergy. From a boulder in the middle of the pool, he can see parishioners go through the doors. They are small from up there, like dolls. Meanwhile, he admires the way a trout faces the current to breathe and consume what's delivered by the flow. That would make a good sermon, he imagines. It's the one he would give.
Thank you, Richard. Anne, would you like to share an additional poem?
Yes, I was working on this one as of yesterday. It's brand new. It's called Orange Crush. There's a man living out of a van at the Sunbeam Mini Mart, which must be convenient when he runs out of ice or milk or Powerball tickets. We exchange hellos, waiting in line for Darlene to ring us up. He plays multiples of 3. I'm a random girl. He buys low-fat yogurt. I go for the full. YOLO, you know. My husband doesn't know about our meetups. Omission isn't lying unless you cross the line. Jim, the van guy, is quite the dresser in a Mad Max way. Get past the orange mohawk and black leather vest, and you'll swim in his blue-eyed waters. He smiles with his whole body like he's neon lit. I only saw him once away from the sunbeam, by chance at the labyrinth at St. Paul's. We took turns blissing out. I think there should be more walking in circles. It's like coming home to yourself. Thank you.
Oh, what a wonderful poem to end our evening with. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We appreciate your hard work and your creativity, and thank you from all of us at the South Florida Poetry Journal. Have a great rest of your evening.